I'm going to go ahead and get started with today's broadcast of Strategy Sunday with Dr. Ken. Today, our title is the C word, right? It's not what, it's what you say and how you say it that really matters, right? It's what you say and how you say it that matters. I see a few folks are tuning in. Hey, Myra, thank you for joining. Dr. Dietrich. Thank you. Thank you for noticing that. That's one of my strategies. So I appreciate you for providing me that feedback. All right, today we're going to be talking about the C word, the C word. As usual, we like to start off by getting your take on what the letter could stand for and how it can be applied to not only relationships, but definitely the business and work world. So we're going to start off with that. So what is my audience members? What are you guys thinking? The C stands for today. What are we going to be talking about today? As usual, I'm always excited to see what you guys come up with because they're always giving more and more ideas for some things that may come in the future. So nothing is wrong. There's no wrong answer here. Okay. So let me guess. Let me let me tune into my comments and see what you guys are coming up with. The C word. The C word. Hey, Susan, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Consistency, that's a good one. That's definitely a good one. And as you can see, I'm actually embodying the word consistency right now over the last few weeks and doing my strategy Sundays with you all. So creativity. Oh, yeah, that's a nice one. So, Dr. Dietrich, you mentioned, the use of the letters of the alphabet to create the topic and content that I'm going to be presenting. So, yeah, creativity, that's a good one. One more. Let's see what Myra comes up with. This is fun on a Sunday evening. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of my strategies that I'm going to mention to you all shortly as we get through this broadcast. So what we have critique. Hey, Kay, thank you for joining. Critique. Okay, so I got a few. All right, so what we're going to be talking about today, the C word in today's broadcast of Strategy Sunday with Dr. Ken is communication. Communication. Right? So as we define communication, as I define communication for today's broadcast, it's a means of transferring information from one person to others by way of a specific channel, right? So we'll talk about what some of those channels are, but it's really an exchange of information, okay? So for those of you who do not know me, I am Dr. Ken Richmond, a board-certified psychiatrist, veteran, and corporate leadership coach. I help corporate leaders pinpoint their leadership problems so they can develop thriving workplaces with less turnover, improve workplace morale, and increase organizational performance. I'm also the author of a best-selling book, Mental Blocks, a concise corporate guide to employee mental health, which you can get on my website or on Amazon. All right, so today, communication is a topic. Communication is a topic. So here's what I want everybody to say, right? We're going to do this, I'll mention the statement, and what I want you guys to do is to complete it. Let's put a word that fills in the blank. So when it comes to communication, and I say this, I am an effective communicator because blank. What word would you use to fill in that? I am an effective communicator because blank, right? What would that be? Say either I'm an effective communicator because I listen. I'm an effective communicator because I stand with my hands to my side and not my arms crossed. I'm an effective communicator because I don't know. I don't talk or have conversations when there are a lot of distractions around me. So what is it for you? What is it like when you communicate that makes you very effective? Okay, and I'll get to that in a moment. But what I want to do is talk about the different channels that I mentioned earlier when it comes to communication or communicating. So one, there's verbal communication, as you can see, using words. And I think inherent into verbal communication is auditory learning or auditory communication, right? So verbal communication is the one way of communicating that we tend to do a lot of. Then there is nonverbal communication, and that's what I mentioned. That's what I was demonstrating earlier. Body language, signs, symbols, different things that we can do to communicate different meanings of what we're trying to get across. Here's an example. If you're in a restaurant and you see somebody doing this, right? They have their hands up to their throat like this, or eating a nice little steak for dinner, T-bone steak, and they did this. What would that communicate to you, right? They're not using their words clearly because they're choking, right? But what? Oh, I just gave it away. Did I just give it away? I think I just gave it away, right? Anyway, you guys get the point. Hey, Dr. Charlotte, thank you for joining. You guys get the point, right? It communicates something that everybody, some universal meaning that is derived from it, or there's some contextual or cultural norm or factor that accounts for that communication method, the channel. Another way that we can communicate is by written communication, and that's through our writings, or emails, for example, letters, books, articles. There's written communication of a certain thought, of a certain idea, presented research, and those kind of things. And the fourth way we can communicate is through visual methods or visual channels. And that's by seeing things. We look, sometimes folks, let's say, children in school, they may learn by different methods. Sometimes you can't use the same method and apply it across the board to like an entire classroom. And I know right now, as we're using, a lot of schools are using Zoom and different audiovisual technology. It's another way of seeing how that individual, how that student learns. Same thing applies to the workplace, right? Sometimes folks are so used to having paper in hand when now they have to use emails and listservs and all these other things to get the information that they need. So so those are the four channels that we can utilize to get our points across or to communicate with each other more effectively so we can exchange ideas. Let me touch base with my comment section here. So hey, Jaquel, thank you for joining. Dr. Mashika, thank you for joining. So Dr. Dietrich, you actually got it right. I think I gave it away too, but I couldn't help but communicate something as serious as somebody choking. But you're absolutely right. That sign does represent somebody who's choking. Universal sign for choking. Okay. So are there times when we feel like we're not communicating as well as we could? Are there things we wish we communicated better? Right. Looking back on instances in my training in terms of medical training, the delivery of bad news, the delivery of unwanted or just very disheartening diagnosis, being able to communicate that effectively was one of those things that I know I had to learn about in terms of how I would deliver that. Does that family, does that patient, do they want that information written? Is it going to be visual? Is it going to be both? Auditory, is it something that you need to record so they can hear, kind of process that information in their own time? So again, it goes back to communication, really learning how that individual learns. In the workplace, how does your employee learn? What type of channels do we have? Is it all a listserv? Is it all by paper? Is it constantly by emails? We're most of us are now working in a virtual environment. What does that look like for a lot of companies, a lot of employees? It's one thing to be in the office and get through emails, periodically. It's another thing to be at home and be driven by, did I get that message, or constant emails that can cause, some degree of anxiety for some individuals. So how are we managing that? That's going to be very important. Okay. So what I'd like to do right now is to go over my 4 tips and strategies to communicate more effectively, or to effectively communicate. I phrase it that way because it's just less words. 4 tips and strategies to effectively communicate. 1, be concise. 2, be specific. 3, be respectful. And the 4th one is to be correct. Again, those tips are be concise, be specific, be respectful, and be correct. So let's dig into that a little bit more. So when I mentioned be concise, how does that help someone communicate more effectively? Well, you want to remove all those extraneous sentences, the rambling conversational pieces that you may have in your response. Okay, so an example of something I do when I communicate with my staff is I use bullets, right? So if I'm doing general information blast, I bullet it out, because then they're able to identify the topic that they want to address or attend to first, even if it may be the fourth or fifth bullet. But that helps to structure that email or that correspondence so that the information is more readily digestible. Okay, so and it's also visually appealing, right? So you have the visual aspect of it, then you have the written aspect of it, and then it's concise. You know, when you have a bullet, you don't want to have multiple sentences in a bullet. You just want to have a few bullets, a few sentences that capture what that bulleted point is going to be. Okay, then you want to be specific. Okay, so if there's a question that was posed to you, answer the question. Just answer the question. You know, be very specific in your response. So an example would be something like this. So, quote, after review of your request, the committee decided to launch your program on 7/10 as planned. That's very, very, very specific, right? Now you can get into a little bit more detail and just, you know, identify the name of the program that's going to be launched on 7/10 or whatever date is identified, but it's very concise, it's very much to the point. Sorry, so we have two things captured in that one sentence. Okay, the third point that the third tip that I want to identify and strategy associated with it is to be respectful. Again, we're now in a virtual environment. It's already hard trying to read text messages without, you know, interjecting our feelings and our emotions into a response that may simply be okay, just the letter K, you know, thumbs up, you know, okay, whatever the symbol may be. But it can create a lot of angst for that person who's expecting, like, you know, at least a long sentence, a few words, and they don't get that, right? That creates a lot of emotions for that individual. But in any event, you want to be respectful when you respond and when you communicate. Whether or not that's verbally, you don't want to stand up to somebody and keep your arms folded like this. It does convey that you're either closed off to that person or you're not receiving that information well. You also don't want to be, you know, rigidly standing with your hands to your side, and unless you're in the military and you just have to be at attention getting that information. But you don't want to be, you know, so overly rigid with your hands to the side and creating some degree of, you know, inappropriate communication to that person who's trying to talk to you. So you want to be respectful. So an example would be something I use in my emails. You know, in the course of a week, I get, like, I don't know, 20, 30, sometimes 50 emails regarding medication refill requests, right? So those are individuals who are requesting a medication refill through the use of the patient portal, which I prefer, okay? It's better than getting on the phone, missing a phone call, or trying to check messages, etc. So one of the things I would say, thank you for using the patient portal, i.e. reinforcing that behavior that I want to have continue. Thank you for using the patient portal. It says that, hey, wow, you made me appreciate something that you just did, and I validated it, and not only did I validate it, I also acknowledged what you just did, or that patient did, okay? So again, be respectful. And the fourth and final tip that I would like to put forward to you as a way to effectively communicate is to be correct. Be correct in your response. Be correct in whatever you are saying. Okay, so you want to avoid confusion in your message by ensuring your response provides information that is accurate and was appropriately researched. Okay, accurate and appropriately researched. Here's the example. So when I see an email that's, you know, where the responses, where a response goes something like this, I think, quote unquote, I think our board meeting is at 4 or 4:30 today or tomorrow. If that is not confusion, it creates confusion and is not correct, I don't know what is, right? So if you're telling me that you think the board meeting is at 4 or 4:30, one, I'm not sure which time it is, right? Is it today or tomorrow? You really don't have enough information for me because I can't plan around that. In other words, I would have to send you another email for clarification, right? So here goes that long-winded, you know, chain of emails that some of us don't like to read through, okay? Versus a response that says, the emergency board meeting is today at 5 p.m. It'll be helpful to add a location, unless the location has changed, today at 5 p.m. in room 504 of building 7, right? Just something that's very concrete, something very correct, so that people show up to the meeting on time, people know where to be, and they don't say, like, if you told me 4 or 4:30 and I showed up for the meeting, or the meeting is at 5 o'clock, and I'm like, well, there's nobody here, or was the meeting canceled? Now I just missed out on some critical information, and I can't make a change or can make a decision in a timely manner. So again, communicating effectively is a big deal. Not only is it important in relationships, it's definitely important in the workplace. Let me tune in and see what my audience members have come up with in terms of what are some of their takeaways. Hey, Dr. Erica, thank you for joining. Dr. Philandy. Excellent, excellent. All right. Yeah, so I want to use tip number 1 and be concise with today's broadcast, but I definitely appreciate you all for tuning in to Strategy Sunday with Dr. Ken. If you like more information, you can visit my website at www.drkenrichmond.com. That's DRKENRICHMOND. You can get some more information there or find other ways to get in contact with me. You can also check out my book that's on there as well.